I didn't realise I was doing it at the time, but I unconsciously was just pursuing being the future or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I kind of like I was kind of just playing into my own illusion of myself that I'm just like so much more than what I ever thought I could be. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, oh, you're mortal. Well, I thought I was immortal.
One of the toughest strongmen in history, right here. It's not a beauty contest. Is it Strongman? I'm to be alive. If you can't do that, and away we go!
Welcome to the Giants Live podcast, and this week we have the future. Yes, Luke Richardson is on the podcast along with myself, Colin Bryce, and Darren Sadler. No Radzi this week. I'm afraid he's stuck in traffic somewhere on the way up. But we'll have to do without him. And I've been doing my homework on Luke, and of course, Darren, you've kind of known Luke most of your life, haven't you?
Well, yeah.
Most of his life.
Most of my life. Yeah.
Well, yeah. How old were you when you came in my gym?
17 or 18, yeah. So it's a fairly long time. It's like 7 or 8 years now, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously the path started with powerlifting with you, didn't it? You went in a powerlifting route and sort of grew rapidly. It was like a string bean when he came in the gym. It was just all arms and legs and no muscle.
I can remember him at 17 being, I remember you showing him to me. You have won, let me see if I can get this right, 3 or at least 2 European and 1 world title at a junior level.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, IPF.
Yep.
1 silver.
That's correct as well.
Presumably
Pavlo
Nakanieczny, the famous Pavlo. And then you came over to Strongman, aged 23, or just turning 22, turning 23?
Oh, 22.
21. 21, yeah. 21 turning 22, yeah.
And obviously there was some massive hopes for you. And you delivered. You came in and you came 4th at Britain's Strongest Man in probably what was just about your first contest. Did you do any before Britain's?
Yeah, I did OSG Europe's on 5 days' notice, and then I did OSG Worlds against Badger. I won that.
That's right, of course. And you, how did you do in the OSGs?
I won.
You won, exactly. Yeah, and you won the European one as well? So
I came 7th for the European one. I was
7th the European one. I think I missed that for some reason. That was
the problem was with the European one, I thought anyway, and I thought it was the best thing that happened to you, because what you did was you could deadlift, you could log, you could load stuff, you could do farmer's walk, and all this, but you couldn't put it together in one go. So we got out there, and the first event was.
It was a deadlift, aye.
So, but you did really well.
I went
after
to win
that,
it,
you were knackered.
I was fucked. Yeah.
There was nothing else left. So then he came to log, and it was like a 140 log.
And I zeroed it.
And he zeroed it. Whereas he could rep it in the gym, but he just done this deadlift of like, I don't know, 3.
It was 320 for reps, aye. Yeah.
So, but he never put it all together.
Lesson 1 of Strongman.
and he was absolutely broad knackered.
Don't blow your load in one.
That's it. And I just thought, well, I said to you after, I said, that's the best thing that's happened to you, because that feeling of being strong, but you can't do anything. It's the work. You've got to be fit and strong. You've got to have the conditioning, and you literally had, because you'd never done it before. It's all powerlifting.
Give everything.
You give everything in the first event, and that was it, gone. And in a very short amount of time, then he went online to qualify for the OSG official Strongman Games. Went there, you were a different animal there, weren't you?
I think that's the thing. I think I probably just needed that reality check that this isn't powerlifting. Obviously, I'd come across from powerlifting with, I'd say, a pedigree. And I think I was probably expecting it to be quite easy because I was like, well, I'm the strongest person here. But strength potential when you're blowing out your ass and useless doesn't really mean anything, does it? So, no, I think I needed that experience to kind of recalibrate where I am. I'm not a world beater anymore. I'm shit, basically. I came 7th at official Strongman Europe's, and I wanted to be world's strongest man. So it was kind of a good measure of where I currently was to where I want to be. I.e., I was nowhere near. So I just knuckled down and get on with it. Just put in hard work, and came. I think official Strongman World was like 2 months later or something. So just put in a lot of work. And
it was a better line, like a miles better line than the Europeans.
So you won that. Then you went to your first Worlds.
Well, for Britain's
first.
Britain's came 4th, which was not a bad result of Britain's.
And then that was a good. I think in front of you had Hicksey.
No, it was Luke Tom Bish.
Luke Tom Bish,
right?
Hicksey
no, not in 2020.
Oh right,
Tom, it was Tom. then Luke.
Hicksy won it the year before, didn't he?
No, Luke came third, Tom came second, and Bish came first. Yeah. But obviously those three were finalists the year before. So, but
They were.
yeah, I mean, don't be wrong. From a potential perspective, again, I was kind of like, I could mix it with these guys. Although at that point, I'd say I was probably pedestaling them a bit because obviously I was a big fan of the sport before I came into it. Obviously, I followed strength sports, being a powerlifter. But at that point, after kind of being able to beat Badger at the time, he'd just come off that 2019 World Tour final performance where he came second and beat Novikov, everyone. So I was like, well, if I can do that, then, I can. I think that natural competitive instinct kicks in. I think if you have too much respect for people, it can kind of, you can kind of be a bit submissive. Whereas at that point, I was probably trying to overcome, I'd overcome it at that point. It was like, right, you're getting it. And then obviously after Brits, COVID hit. And that was like 6 months where I thought, right, that gap of 11 points between me and Luke is getting eliminated. Well, it's not going to be there anymore.
So that was actually quite a good period for you. I mean, presumably you had your own gym you could go and knuckle down in. And
that's the thing. Obviously, I got statically a lot stronger as well. But I think for me, obviously, even still now, I'm still relatively new, although I've probably seemed like I've been around a long time because I've had a year of doing absolutely nothing. But I think just getting more specific experience within strongman, it probably seemed like I was making progress quicker than I actually was. But I think I was just realising my strength potential.
There was only a very short gap between... you'll tell us, but between the European official strongman games,
September 7th or 8th,
and the Britons the year after.
Yeah, it was January.
Sorry, and in between, so I think it was like November was the official strongman games, September was the Europeans, so you'd made that big improvement, and then January. So remember the OSM games was in November, then January was Britain's. So you're only on about from September to January. Remember in September you had no conditioning, literally.
Aye.
So I honestly think, I'll say it again and again, the beating that you got was the best thing that ever happened to you.
Well, let me just finish the story, just so those who maybe don't know all of Luke's stories. Luke then went on from Britain's to win Europe's Strongest Man in your first ever attempt, which is, and certainly in my eyes, has been the number 2 title in the world. Arguably with the Arnolds, certainly, the Arnolds would have a good case for that too. But it's certainly the top 3 titles. Massive win there. It was a COVID year, you could say, of course, and people would say that
it was weaker.
There was missing some foreigners.
It was weaker. It was
but still, you did it. You did the business, and you probably thought, right, powerlifting, I've done the business, I'm doing it again. You went to Worlds. You qualified for the final in your first ever attempt, which is pretty rare.
Well, we'll say about Europe's Strongest Man, obviously it was COVID, so a lot of people couldn't travel. I mean, Bish was there who just won Britain's, and you beat Bish, you know what I mean? And it was a good Bish as well.
I think that's
Bish made the final of Worlds twice.
I think ultimately for me it was about reversing that point deficit that I had in January. And Bishop won Britain's Strongest Man in January, so it was probably, I think it was 11 points between me and Luke, and it was probably about 14 to 15 between me and Bishop. And then I reversed that, and I think I ended up winning Europe's with like a 9-point margin or something.
I just finish your history. So you make it to Worlds. I just want to know, you made it all the way to Worlds. Did you ever expect you'd get to the final of World's Strongest Man on what would be, how many contests in are we now? 1, 2, 3, 4,
5.
5?
5, yeah.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
did.
Yeah.
With the
top 10 in the world.
First contest been so bad as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think obviously there's probably a bit of like, maybe it is a bit of like ignorance or arrogance or whatever it is, but yeah, I mean, I think in a sport that's obviously objective, can you pick this thing up? It's not like there's no political bullshit or anything like that. Like if I'm strong enough to be in the final, I'll be in it, and I was, and I thought I was in a place where, I didn't care what heat I was in or whatever. I was like, I am strong enough to be in the final. So I'm going to be in it, and that's that.
Great, Mark. I mean, who were the big guns in your final then? The year you made it. Maybe was it the year. Was it a bit like, can I get your autograph, Mister? Why you were taking them on?
It was the year that Novikov won, wasn't it? But
Shaw was there.
Yeah, I was in a group with Jerry, who was on fire in 2020, wasn't he?
Well, Jerry came in the last minute because he replaced Kielicowski, if you remember, and. To be honest with you, I thought, this is no offence to Jerry, Jerry's brilliant, but Kielicowski was fucking really on fire. And I was like, right, well, he's going in as a replacement. I thought, right, that's probably made it a bit easier for you, actually. So I thought, And then Jerry started competing. Jerry, what was it?
Unbelievable.
What went on? I think he came third, did he, Jerry? In the whole
He was at one point. He was second in the final.
He came fourth, and if he'd have
Fourth,
loaded the last stone, he'd have come second
Right,
overall.
okay.
Yeah, I think. But yeah, Joe was an animal that year, and then I think obviously I was really disappointed with Worlds that year, and to be honest, I didn't really enjoy it. I thought it was crap. I thought I was crap. It was just a tough year, and I don't think mentally I was prepared for kind of the absolute. Just, obviously that year was a bit of an exception anyway. We had the hurricane, didn't we? We did four days in a row. And it's like 4 days in a row. If you're a strongman who does event sessions and you know how you feel the morning after an event session, your bones hurt. So you're getting out of bed every morning. I think for me, it was probably the first time that I felt kind of mentally weak whilst competing, because obviously I had a goal and ambition to get to the final. And then I got to the final, and there was the realization that, I never expected to win it. At that point, I wasn't good enough to win it. So I think I would, comparatively to someone like Novikov, I bet Novikov was jumping out of bed on a morning because he was like, I'm going to fucking win this thing. Whereas I was getting out like, oh, God, I've got another day on trying to do the heaviest deadlift I've ever done after 2 days of just shafting myself like in the heats and stuff. But yeah, I feel like I got to the final and it was kind of like, oh, now I've got the next 2 days of kind of the hardest competition of my life so far. So I feel like that's an attitude that I changed going into 2021, and unfortunately I didn't get to realise it because I blew my bicep off. But yeah, I think that probably it was the first time that I felt broken in a competition, and it's the first time as well that I feel like I kind of let the public or people's opinions kind of get to me, really.
Were you hydrating, eating, or were you just kind of giving it your all each day and then falling into bed?
Yeah,
and
pretty
waking up
much.
next thinking, oh my God, I'm doing it again.
Yeah,
Or were you? I mean, like you watch Brian. Brian's before he's even taking part in an event, he's already prehabbing and rehabbing and drinking and eating, ready for the next event, which is planned in 4 hours or whatever. He's all over it. I mean, I guess it was you came on your own, of course, because it was the COVID year.
I think it was probably a World's Strongest Man crash course, but it was the same crash course for everyone else. Obviously, going back the year later, I was more prepared to do better physically and mentally. But like I say, unfortunately, I didn't get to realise that. But yeah, I mean, it was just another time where I probably just needed kind of leveling a bit. Do you know what I mean? I just come off the back end of Europe's, think I'm the dog's bollocks, and I just need leveling. Like, this is where you're at, this is your level, and if you want to be a lot better, then you need to give a bit more. And I think it was probably ultimately my demise, because I think getting leveled there and then probably feeling a bit hard done by some of the criticism that I got probably led me to train to a point where I was just destroying my body, because it wasn't about how I feel. It was about getting one over on you and proving you that I can do what I want. Basically, the rules of going in and placing here and placing there don't apply to me. I'm off where I want to go, and then obviously I overcooked it a bit.
I mean, your mindset, obviously, in powerlifting, you felt you must have had total belief that what you were going to do was kind of written out there and written in stone. I mean, Pavlo, what a guy to have beaten as well.
I think this is the thing, though, and I think it's been probably the best thing for me, being in the area where I live and being around people like Darren. Not to blow smoke up his ass, but like, it's hard to get ahead of yourself when you've got someone.
He likes that.
Do you know what I mean? But I think that's the problem. Obviously, you come in young, full of ambition, and with a chip on your shoulder, and constantly try to prove something to people. And I feel like I've kind of gone in cycles of that mentality where it's like, well, once you just get above average in strength, well, then I'm above average so I can show off. But then it actually ends up being a lot harder than just that. And then obviously I came second to Pavlo. And then, because originally, if I'd have won that World Championship the first year in 2017, I probably wouldn't have continued it. Because I'd been like, cool, completed it, 4 comps done. Right, that was easy, next thing. Whereas kind of Pavlo beating me, then it turned into kind of this really kind of like nasty, like, right, you're not getting one over on me again. Now, I won Worlds the following year, broke the world records, and now it's like, well, I'm not competing against anyone anymore.
Records plural? What did you break?
At the World Championship, I broke the deadlift record and the total record. I broke the total record by, I think, 40 or 60 kilos or something. But then at that point, it was like, right, well, I've already done more than anyone else has done. So then I started going after 1,000 kilos, and then I became the youngest person to have a total of 1,000 kilos.
IPF.
Yeah.
No, this is like neoprene.
Yeah, walked out, like IPF rules, walked
IPF,
out, sleeves.
raw.
But that was, it was the youngest person to total 1,000 kilos.
Does that still stand?
No, not anymore.
Does it not?
No. I mean, the record still stands in Britain and in Europe and so, but yeah, it was regardless of knee wraps, drug tested or drug free, and anything like that. But I feel like that was quite a good place for me because I wasn't chasing anyone anymore because there was no one to chase. I was getting on with it. It was probably a bit more organic because
it was 1,000 kilos in the IPF, which is a drug tested federation, and it was just neoprene. And a leather belt is all you had to do.
But then
it's unbelievable.
But then about 2 months after that, I had, because Pablo didn't go towards that year, and I was annoyed because I wanted to beat him because he beat me the last time we competed against each other. So we were 1-1, and I wanted to be 2-1 up. And then we went to the European Championships, which was both of our last competitions in the IPF at the end of 2018, and we both totaled 1,010.5 kilos, and I won on bodyweight.
What were you? What did you squat?
I squatted 403 kilos. I benched
403 kilos and just a pair of knee wraps and a belt.
I benched.
No, not even knee wraps. Sorry,
No.
neoprene.
Yeah. I benched 222.5 kilos and deadlifted 385. So yeah, I went 9 for 9, and I think he went like 7 for 9. So I think my attempt selection was just better, to be honest. But no, I mean, I could have done a lot more that day, but yeah, I don't know. It was nice to get that win back. It felt like a bit of redemption, to be honest. And I kind of could have, not that I had any kind of resentment towards him from a competitive kind of perspective. I did, but I could put that to bed in my own mind now. I'd satisfied my need to prove that I'm better than someone, which is what I'm all about, really. I think ultimately that's my main problem is that I've just got this weird thing.
Don't beat yourself up over it. Everybody, if you're competitive, you're competitive. You can't help it. That's why you do sport, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think it's a good attitude to have, isn't it? You need to want to win. I think a lot of the things these days at schools where they say, you don't need to win and all this, you get a trophy, everyone gets a trophy. It's like, well, that ain't life, is it?
I think that's
Let's be honest, that's not real.
I think that's the problem, though. But I think I really tended to like sport more because it was just something completely objective that I could control. If I wanted to go out and get better at football, then I would just go out in the back garden with a football and just kick it for a full day. And then it's like, oh, well, now I'm the best football player. Surprise. Do you know what I mean? I think kind of in this day and age where everyone, don't get me wrong, I can see why it's good, obviously from your perspective as well, because it's TV in it. But like, stop trying to fucking overcomplicate everything. Like, if you do something, you're going to get better at it. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. It's quite like it's as simple as it gets. Like it doesn't need to be.
Having said that, okay, let's say I gave you a load of Chinese to read, and just kept reading it. Would you get any better at it?
At Chinese,
yeah. Not without a translation.
He's good at eating Chinese.
In other words, some things you need coaching.
No, and I agree, but fundamentally it just comes down to, in my opinion, like it's just, you just got to graft, haven't you? Like, if you want to get better at something, you've just got to do it. Like, there's no...
Yeah, of course. Of course, there's no substitute for hard work.
Yeah, but I feel like kind of the lines become a bit blurred with, like, dreams and work aren't the same thing. Obviously I had aspirations of being basically what I've become, not a cripple, but, someone who's really strong and kind of recognised for being strong, but... I could sit around and, go and do all these motivational pep talks and stuff like that. But the reality is you just need to get in the gym and just go for it, innit? It's not...
Well, I mean, first of all, you won a European and a world title in powerlifting?
Yeah.
And you've totaled over 1,000 kilos and you've broken world records. I mean, you could go away and do anything you wanted. And having had a great sports career, that's quite something. But why Strongman then? I mean, you're so successful at powerlifting. Why didn't you continue with powerlifting? What besides probably Daz?
Yeah,
what dragged you in?
I think that obviously had a big influence on me, and I think it had a big influence on me in the first place because when I was, obviously this is competing from the drug tested perspective. When I was training in Harrogate and I was the strongest guy in my gym, because you're the strongest guy in your local gym, you're almost like, oh, well, if that person's doing that, then they're on this, and that's not possible. Whereas, like, obviously coming over here, it warped my perception of possibility. And then obviously natural competitive instinct kicks in, and it's like my first week of training there, Daz pulled 370 or something. I was the strongest guy I've ever gone anywhere. I was the strongest guy anywhere I've ever been. And then you come into this new place and it's like, shit, I'm not good at all.
Well, around that time as well, we had Eddie Hall coming in, Jim and Thor, Benny was getting ready to pull world record deadlifts. Benny was pulling some crazy stuff in there. So obviously he'd come in.
There was that one day when they both trained.
Yeah,
I think Benny came in early, and then Ed came in later.
Well, we had a lot of weekends.
Terry was there as well.
Donna was
and he was
there as
embarrassed to pull whatever 365 for a few reps.
Every week there's someone in the gym. One of the strongmen comes down, trains on the kit, whatever. There's always someone. So he'd obviously come in and train, and all of a sudden he was like a kid in a sweet shop. You can see him looking, thinking, "Fucking hell, that's so and so doing that." And all of a sudden you're, let's say at that time, when you're doing a 320, 330 deadlift and you're seeing Eddie warming up on 350, you know what I mean?
Aye.
You see the possibilities, don't you?
I think that's the thing as well. And I think it depends on what type of person you are. I think being someone who's obviously hyper competitive and has a pretty big ego, I speak for myself. But I don't see something like that and think, oh, that can never be me. I see something like that and be like, right, I'm going to do that. So there is this level of like probably just blind belief. Like, you don't know if you're ever going to get to that point, but like, I'm going to try to get there because obviously it's something that I admire. Like, I have always admired physical capability. I think that it is I think it's such a shame for people to live their whole lives and never explore how kind of like capable you are. Like, at least when I'm old, and well, I mean, I feel old now and I'm wrecked, like, but I don't know, there's just kind of this pride in the fact that I know that I've kind of I did something that not many people could do. It feels good, and it's not often that I kind of feel proud of myself because I'm always looking for the next thing. But I think when's all said and done, I could probably look back and be quite content, I think.
Well, it was Socrates who said it's a terrible tragedy if a man doesn't try to fulfill his physical potential or something in life to see how good he could become. And I think there's a certain truth in that. Now, obviously, I'm going to hit you with a hard one here. One of the first questions on Google when you type in your name is, what happened to Luke Richardson? What happened to Luke Richardson? What happened, man? 2022, step on a year. You're now a WSM finalist. You're a rock star. You're Europe's strongest man. Sorry, 2021. You're at World's Strongest Man, and you're going in the first event. You're perhaps the favourite in the heat. Probably the favourite in the heat. You're World's Strongest Man.
In the heat last year?
JF Caron.
Well, Caron, maybe not.
Shivers, E4, OB, and I can't remember who else. Maybe that was it. I think that was
it. It was 5-man heats.
Yeah.
So people that have been looking at you and Caron as the top two would have said then.
Yeah, I mean, I was going into that heat thinking like I'm auto qualifying out of this. Like I thought, like I was going into that thinking like I'm beating JF out of this group this year. That's where I was like, and I don't think it was particularly kind of like misplaced. That's how good I felt, and I'm not someone who I'm honest with myself. I don't lie to myself. That was how good I felt. But then I was flying on the first event, and I felt really up for it. Like I say, I'd trained like an absolute maniac because I felt like that's what was necessary to kind of overturn the lack of preparation that I felt I had the last year. But I don't think the year before it was necessarily that I had a lack of preparation. It's just that I hadn't had time. But then I was like, right, well, I'm not going to have more time, so I just need to be more prepared. And more prepared to me was just killing myself in the gym. I was training
Never was.
No, I was just training. I was just training 5 days a week, and it wasn't about how my body was feeling and how my muscles and joints and tendons were feeling. It was about, right, well, that's not happening again. So it was a bit kind of like, I think that probably my judgment was just skewed purely by just outcome. It wasn't. But unfortunately, unfortunately, I've learned, as you told me, that your body you're not a robot and you're not a machine as much as you feel like one, and it's really humbling because obviously I've spent my whole career setting out to do something and doing it. I've spent my whole life setting out to do something and doing it. Like say, I'd take a ball outside, or I'd go and do like if I wanted to do something, I'd just relentlessly do it and then do the thing that I wanted to do.
Was this what I said to you about being mortal?
Yeah, so I've had basically 20,
Sorry.
but I've had basically a full lifetime of just like positively reinforcing that if I want to do something, I just do it.
Do something, yeah.
Aye. So then obviously when that don't go your way, you think, oh shit, like I'm just like everyone else. But at that point, I didn't feel like everyone else. I felt like more than. It's weird because I never think that outwardly I'm not like I'm.
Was it your first injury?
Yes, ever.
Ever?
Yeah. Aye. So
you're in the world's strongest man and you tear your bicep.
yeah.
Pop. The big head, whatever, the distal, right?
Distal, yeah. So, but at the time, it wasn't. I wasn't like. Obviously, I was very angry, but I wasn't like. I was just like, right. Well, this is just something that everyone goes through. I'll come back from it like everyone else, and I'll just get on with it. But then I was coming back, and it kind of never really felt right. And then my knee went in December, and I was like, right, okay, well, this is just another thing. I'll just get this surgery done and then come back. And then I got announced for Europe, and I thought, right, well, and my bicep still didn't feel right, but at this point we're like 8-9 months post-op. So I'm like, well, if it doesn't feel right, maybe this is just how it's going to feel forever, get on with it. And then went back in the gym and 3 stone sessions into training, it comes off again. And then obviously that's me written off now for probably another year, if I'm being sensible.
You got to leave. I mean, tendons. I think a lot of people rush back with tendons. Tendons are.
Some people have got back really quick though.
Some people do, and I think a lot depends on your surgeon. Not that your surgeon wouldn't have done a great job. Also, the rehab afterwards. I took a tendon off of my finger. You've taken a tendon off in your bicep, and it was the small head, right? It reattached, didn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously, when you have something screwed in, it's a whole different story, isn't it?
It was a big kick in the teeth because I thought that I was being sensible leaving it as long as I did. I tore it in June, and I was not even thinking about coming back until Brits in February. Sorry, it was February this year, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
So I was like, right, give it, and that was after. Don't get me wrong, I would have probably done that anyway, but that was after speaking to people like Bishop, who's obviously an opinion that I'm absolutely going to consider because he's a smart bloke. And then it wasn't even February it tore off; it was March or April. So, if you take something that's like, right, I'm trying to be really cautious here, and then I've kind of gone above and beyond caution, which was really hard for me because I'm not someone who acts with caution. I'm someone who just does stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I felt like I gave it enough time, and then it was a bit like, why again? But it is what it is.
It's a bit kind of, why me?
No, literally, because
I've been there, man. I've been there. We all have.
I think the reason that I've ended up doing Strongman is because I like being accountable for myself. I think the problem is like I really struggle to see why people would go into an individual sport and then blame an inanimate object like a barrel for tearing my bicep off. Like everyone else lifted the barrel and didn't tear their biceps off, so it's not the barrel's fault, is it? It's my fault. I should have put it on the fucking table. Do you know what I mean?
There is definitely something about a slip catch that is the biggest bicep. When you did yours, was there a slip in it?
No, it was a tyre flip. But a tyre flip, you're sort of doing that because you've got to pull it up and then catch it a little bit. Yeah. It is sort of like that.
Like
anyway.
Felix, I remember Felix slipping on the stone and catching it.
But you sort of with a tyre, you sort of do that naturally. So as you pull it up, then you've got to get your hands around for the push, and that's what it did with me. But it's life, isn't it? Like you say,
you're in a very extended position, aren't you?
The big problem when I did that, or what everyone seems to have in common is when you tear your bicep off, you always feel strong as hell. It's like because obviously you've got so strong. And you feel like I'm in the best shape of my life, but you've still got a bicep tendon that's got the same amount of strength. So the stronger you are physically, the tendon's still there, just waiting to come off. You know what I mean? So, like you said, you felt your best ever.
Aye.
Well, so you'd have lifted that barrel the quickest and the most powerful you ever lifted.
Well, I think I'd tore my bicep on the third barrel while Shivers was only just going back for the second implement. So I was a full implement and a half ahead, and I was running back to that frame after I'd put that barrel up. But yeah, I think it's been a hard last year for me, to be honest. I think because I'm someone who tries to, like, I think in a sport where you are completely accountable for everything, if you start to disperse that, to me, that's just the get out. Like if I start blaming surgeons and blaming equipment and blaming organisers, then You know, that's like, it's all on me, really. But then the problem is with it all being on me, it's kind of like, then you do end up in this weird place where it's like, but I did everything right. Why is it still going wrong? Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like that's misplaced out of like ignorance or anything. Like, I'd stuck to the T on everything, and it's not like, but then I don't have the get out. I can't blame the surgeon. I can't blame the thing. Do you know what I mean? I can't partition that blame off. Like, this is on me. I'm in this situation.
Well, I mean, how professional, obviously, you know, it's bad luck it happened at the start of your career, because if it was 3 or 4 or 5 years into it and you had continuous wins, you'd have a big pot of money. You'd be in a much better position to be able to, you know, it's like when Eddie went full-time strongman and started getting all the sponsors, you know, and suddenly he really pretty much copied Brian Shaw, didn't he? And all of his prehab and his, you know, speaking to Power Dwyer, he's made incredible changes in the last sort of 18 months. He said it's nothing really to do with training. It's all to do with everything around the training.
Yeah, what you do afterwards.
What you do after, all the recovery and all that stuff. And so what's the big changes then? How's Luke going to come back, the new Luke, bigger, stronger?
I think just take the approach of, like, obviously I've kind of conceded to my own will now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've understood that, like, my body isn't going to match up my expectation of when it's ready. Like, I can't will my body to be more prepared than it's going to be. So I think probably just kind of just riding the wave, innit? Do you know what I mean? Just, you know, obviously you can do your best to put your best foot forward and try and be as optimal as possible, but things are gonna go at their own speed, really. And I think the moment that you start getting ahead of yourself and you start pushing and willing things to, you know, there's a time and the place. If you're in the comp and push comes to shove and you need to really dig in and get on with it, then that's where I feel like you need to kind of let loose a bit. The problem is I was letting loose every single time I went in the gym. So yeah, I just overcooked it a bit, whether it was immaturity.
Did anyone ever warn you were doing it wrong?
Someone did, yeah. But you don't listen to people because you know better.
I just thought he was doing like, you know, we'd train together on a Monday and do a log press. Then I see him like doing a strict shoulder press on like a Tuesday afternoon. I'm like, what? Did we not do enough yesterday? You know, he'd never give it enough time. Yeah, but it's different because it's strict press. I'm like, yeah, but leave your shoulders alone, please. Let them rest, you know, for a few days. I think.
Who's doing your program now?
Well, I'm back with the same guy I was with pre getting injured, but I think this is the thing. I think you could. It'd be easy for me to just blame him, but blame Shane because, yeah, he was the guy who was putting it. But I think when someone's giving, you need to be honest in that situation. And at that time, I wasn't being honest with him. I was under the assumption of like, right, well, regardless of what he messages me saying, like, are you all right? Because he was like, mate, you're doing a lot. Like, he knew I was doing a lot. And I was as strong.
So you weren't going back and saying, well, I've done this extra with Daz. I feel a bit sore here today.
I was his strongest client. I was his heaviest client. Yeah. And I was the one who was doing the most work per week.
I think the one thing that I because obviously I competed in the 105s and the heavyweights, the workload for a lot, you know, obviously there's so many guys 80 kilos, 90 kilos doing the official strongman stuff. They're like another level of fit. And the reality of it is, a guy who's 150 kilos, 160, 170, whatever, the big guys that compete for Giants Live, you can't do as much volume as that 90 kilo guy. Naturally, you can't repair quite as much. You're never going to be quite as fit. And yes, you are naturally going to be a lot stronger, and the weights are going to be heavier. You've still got a human frame. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I think
I just think that sometimes these programs need to be, you know, the guy who's doing the program for a lighter weight needs to just realise, you know, I'm on about you. It's you personally, because like you say, it's your own choice. But something that a 105 guy might do might not just be right for a heavyweight.
I think that's the thing, though. But I wasn't willing to concede for the fact that this is too much for me.
Oh, I would take it a stage further. Every single person on every day kind of changes. You go up, you go down, and we were just talking about this outside earlier, weren't we? But you said you thought Martin's Lissus was a bit of a softie for going into the gym and then saying, actually, I don't feel good. I'm going to change and do stretching today. And you thought, you're the typical Yorkshireman.
Yeah, I don't look to that and go, well,
Friday's heavy day, that's what it is.
It's heavy this somewhere, you're going to do it. You big Jesse.
I think that's the thing. I think kind of, you know, there's no consideration for yourself. There's a job that needs done, so just do it. You know, it's just as completely as, it's just, to me, it was just like, it was as transparent as it gets. It was like say, it's just that whole thing in my whole life where it's like, right, well, if I want to get better at this thing, you just do it more. But then, unfortunately, I've got to the point where I'm pushing my own physiology to a supernatural amount where that curve doesn't work that way anymore. Because
I think any program that you get, you've got to factor in two things. Obviously, programming's great. Let's not fucking say that having a program is a bad thing, because of course it's a great thing.
It's a good thing.
There's two things you've got to factor in. One is that day, for whatever reason, you might not have had the right nutrition. You might not just feel right. So there's nothing wrong with going a bit light and doing more reps. You might change that as you do it. You think, I ain't going to be able to do that today. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a great workout and do some more speed work. The other thing is, and I believe in this as well, you might get to the gym and feel fucking fantastic and think, do you know something? Today, I feel like I can do, you're right, we're meant to be doing, a 180 log, and you've done it, and you're like, actually, that's just so light tonight. I'm going to go heavier. I think you also can do that. Not every time. You don't want one of these guys that's always chasing the heaviness, but sometimes if it's there, you've got to take it. So you might not be there next week. You might not have been there last week. So I think you've got to be able to write everything in pencil. And sometimes, like, we'll go, right, okay, well, tonight, actually, you look that good tonight. Well, let's scrap that program a little bit. Let's just put another 10 kilos on. And I think you've got to allow yourself that as well.
I don't know how many times you ever tried to return from injury, but whenever I return from injury, or even like a long layoff, like just a year and a half or something, it was amazing how strong I was again. Yeah. I'd assumed I would lose everything, but actually you don't. It's remarkable how a real good rest to your body. Look at Martin's Lisses. He had a right good rest, and he came back, and he's been on fire.
Not on a massive amount of time.
And I think he's going to do that rest again now.
Within about 3 months of him training properly again, like from not training for such a long time, he was strong as hell again. Because he's a strong guy. Like, you've got that power, like all that work that you've done, it's not gone. And I think once you get everything settled down, the biceps right, once you get to a level,
don't panic. In other words,
it'll come back.
I think that's the thing. All of my kind of shortcomings have been ego orientated, because it's like, right, well, I need to put in this amount of work to maintain this. Like, say, there isn't an acceptance that, like, right, well, now I'm this, because then I feel like I'm compromising. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm content then. Like, I always need to be, like, trying to do more than I did or achieve more than I did. And I feel like that, obviously, if you end up in that kind of vicious cycle of just constantly
I think you need to go a step backwards, rest, obviously, lots of rest. And you're looking big, strong. Yeah. But also, I think it's a bit like, here's another example, talking of Ed, when Ed went mad and went for the deadlift for a year, he wasn't the greatest strongman at the start of the year. By the end of the year, when he deadlifted and then converted back again,
it was
unbelievable.
Everything like he had a 500 kilo back, if you like, and then he got fit again.
And then he got fit again. All right, maybe he was 7 or 8 kilos, 10 kilos lighter, and suddenly he was almost.
The weird thing was though, when Eddie did that, I honestly believe the last day of the final at World's Strongest Man, he could have pulled 500 again, because he pulled
100%.
472
and a half.
Okay, but it was easy.
But
when he did that, you're like, actually, this guy I think could still pull that.
He was saying that. He was saying to one reporter, I overheard him, I could have done 550 today. It's hard to say he couldn't have done.
But I mean, the thing is, with you're on the comeback trail and all that sort of thing. The reality of it is, you've got all that in the backpack that you've done, all the IPF stuff. You've been to finally World's Strongest Man. 1 year at Strongest Man, you scalped some good people, and you're 25 years old today.
It's my birthday.
So happy birthday. Whatever you do, don't. I mean, I bet Mateusz Kiedyszkowski is just kicking himself for coming back. Obviously, he had bad luck with his surgery.
Some people don't start till 25. He's 25, and you've got all that already
done. Look at Felix. What was he, 35 or
36?
When he started, I was destroyed at 27. So don't whatever you do. 14 operations in.
I feel like that's the thing. And
rushing back.
Now I'm probably starting to see the side of the people. Like I watch Zydrunas' videos, and Zydrunas fascinates me because you can just tell that he's just, I don't know, he's on that thing of just, I'm not. But then I think you need to be like Zydrunas, where you're just chipping away, and it's all quite It's quite modest. It's and he's just happy living in his shed in his thing.
It's a giant log, beautiful cabin house. And everything. But yeah, I know what you mean. But I mean, when Zadrunas first came to the shows I was promoting, I mean, he'd had his double patella in like 99 or 2000. And I remember him coming to Holland, was one of the first shows I was involved in promoting in 2003. And he failed to do a 150 log. Quite something, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, talk about chip away.
Well, he did his patellas on a Conan's wheel. I think it might have been either 2000 or 2001.
And we're the same age. Yeah. So I was already knackered. And then, like 16 years later, he's still competing.
Who would have thought that? Like, he'd come, like, you know, your problems are nothing like 2 full patellas off. He was in a wheelchair.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? He couldn't walk.
Yeah, you're right.
And then after that, he won 4 World Strongest Man titles.
But not for another decade.
It was just random mistake. And actually, I reckon a lot of doctors, obviously he's got some good doctors, but a lot of doctors have gone, mate, you've just pulled both your patellas off. Can you stop doing this shit? Do you know what I mean? And now, what is he, 40 odd years old, and he's still doing it?
I feel that's the thing. It needs to be. I feel, you know, obviously I'm competitive and I'm ambitious. As Zadrunas will be, like, he doesn't have all them trophies in his house for no reason, does he? The guy likes winning, but I think it needs to be like, I don't know. There just needs to be. You're doing it because you love it. I do love it because if I didn't love it, I wouldn't have started in the first place. So it's trying to return back to that. You know, it's not about putting something up on Instagram and having this person talk about me and having respect off this guy who I don't care about or acquiring status. You know, which I didn't realise I was doing at the time, but I unconsciously was just pursuing being the future or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I kind of like I was kind of just playing into my own illusion of myself that I'm just like so much more than what I ever thought I could be. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, oh, you're mortal. Well, I thought I was immortal. Do you know what I mean?
That's what I said to him when he first tore his bicep. And he was sitting over in the tent, and he was kind of clutching it. And I came over, wow, you're mortal. And he stuck with him. Like, I'm so sorry,
but I didn't feel like. Obviously, I felt like it at that time. But at that time, I didn't feel like I was. I felt like
I think it's just a youth thing. And the thing is, what's happened to you? Like say you're only 25. You started very young, a teenager, become a world champion, European champion, all that. The reality, I remember all of us when we were in our 20s. When I was the worst one, it's like someone said, "Oh, do you think you can run straight through that wall?" I'm like, "Yeah, probably." You know what I mean? Whereas now I'm 42.
I can.
Now I'm 42. I'm like, I don't think I can get through the door properly. You know what I mean? So I think
walk upstairs.
But I think it's a youth thing. But the good thing is now you've sort of learned that, and you're still only 25.
All right. I think that's the thing. I think going forward, I just need to probably just let things happen. Obviously, I can put myself in the best situations and scenarios to succeed. I can be proactive with recovery. I can be a bit more optimal with my training and take into consideration when my body's falling to bits. But I think, I just need to just enjoy it for what it is again. Just the fact that obviously I have a lot of probably they're not negative traits because I channel them positively, but like, I really, really need to train, and I feel like that's probably the reason that I've gone loopy in the last year is that I haven't had an outlet for this.
Awful.
For this just relentless ambition.
If you want a good YouTube channel to go and really go look at a guy called Matt Vincent. Go look him up. He was a world champion several times in Highland Games, and then in the end had 7 or 8 operations on one knee. This kept going wrong, back too early. In the end, had complete knee replacements. And it really mentally was destroying him. He's fascinating, actually. Really good YouTube channel Matt's gone. But hey, we're going to have to call it a quits there, I think. All right. We've got some other stuff we have to sadly get on with. Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you very much.
And hopefully like Zadrunas, in 25 years you'll still be going. You'll be 50.
Hopefully I'll still be alive. We'll see. We'll see what's about.
But mate, you've had the most extraordinary career so far, and burst onto the World's Strongest Man, made the final. I think we're going to see a lot more from you, and I think you've probably learned one of the best lessons for longevity. It's a painful one, but I'm sure you'll be back.
Hopefully I can not give in to my own stubbornness, and I'll be back, and then when I am, I can just enjoy it again. That'd be nice.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Fingers crossed. Thank you.
Cheers,
Thank
dude.
you.